In Onshape, you can reference a published geometry feature in a different document. In a previous video, I showed you how to create a published geometry feature and reference it in the same document. The big difference is that when you want to do it from another document, you are going to have to version the source document. Let's take a look at that. Here I am in my engine body assembly once again. And previously, I created a published geometry feature for designing some manifolds. Now I'm going to work on the oil pan, and I'm going to do that in a different document. To start off with, I'm going to go to one of my predefined display states for the oil pan design. This will help when I create a Part Studio in context. Let's click that button. And for the origin mate connector, I will just pick it out of the instances list. Then let's hit the check mark. Here I am in my new Part Studio, and the components that were visible in that display state are shown in a transparent color. So now I will go to the far side of my toolbar where you can get to your drop-down list for your custom features. I'm going to create my new Publish Geometry feature. And for this Publish Geometry feature, I'm going to rename it. I always like to rename my features. And let me call this my oil, oops, misspelled oil pan pub geom. That's good. For the published name, this is the name of the composite part that will be created. I'll just call it something similar. Same as spelling, O-I-L. Oil pan PG this time for published geometry. Okay, for the surfaces, I'm going to keep this very simple. Let's just grab this surface and this surface. That should be enough. You'll notice we have the note that a new assembly context was created. For the mate connectors, I will grab this one and this one. And that's all I'm going to do for this particular published geometry feature. Just keep it very lightweight. Here's the option to exclude it from the bill of materials, which I want. So let's hit the check mark. And let me make my pan a little bit wider so you can see the feature. You can see the arrow highlighted in yellow, indicating that this is a reference to context 1. Let me rename this, and I'm going to call this the engine body oil pan design. And let's see, if we take a look at the parts list down at the bottom, here is the composite part that is created. So this is great. I will insert and go to the assembly. This is the only part. It's the only one that I'm going to insert. So I will hit the check mark. And now I am back into the engine body assembly, and you can see that we have our published geometry composite part located here. So I want to use that published geometry in a different document. The important step is that I'm going to have to create a version. Here on the left side of the interface, I have the icon for creating a version. You can change the name if you want. V1 is fine. I'm going to just type in some information that I have a published geometry feature for the oil pan design. That way, if anyone is ever wondering later on what the version was for, well, they'll be able to see this information. So let's hit the create button, and our version has been created. If we go to our versions and our history, we can see that I've created that today. Okay, so let me collapse that, and let me go to my documents. And so I am going to create a new document, create document, and this one I'll just call oil pan, and then hit the create button. And so I am now in a brand new Part Studio. Let's derive that published geometry feature. And so here is the derive command. Let me select Part Studio. I'll use that button and then go to Other Documents. And then I will navigate to where the source document is. And then we can see the Part Studio, and here is the manifolds publish geometry feature. Let me expand this one. Okay, yeah, I should have renamed the Part Studio. I always like to rename stuff to make it easier to find things. And then I will select the oil pan part. Let me close that and let me zoom out. And so I can see that, yeah, this is a little oriented incorrectly from how I would prefer relative to my different planes. So I'm going to use the placement drop-down list to change from base origin, which it's currently using, to base mate connector. And let me try this one. There we go. I think that is oriented a lot better relative to my planes top, front, and right. There's also the check mark here to include mate connectors. That is good. I will hit the check mark. And so now we have our derived feature, and we can see that it is using a version of a linked document. In other words, it's got that link to a separate document than the one that I am currently in. Here is the composite part. I will not make the same mistake as before. I will rename this Part Studio to call it Oil Pan Part Studio. That's good. And so that is how you can create a publish geometry feature in order to reference geometry in a lightweight manner in a completely separate document. I can design my oil pan now, and if we take a look at our regeneration times, this is extremely lightweight, 36 milliseconds, as opposed to what I would have if I was trying to bring in all that information from the engine body assembly or one of those big heavy engine body parts.